What'd you get? Hey, what's happening everyone? I'm Sir James coming at you guys with another video, and today I want to go ahead and share with you guys my thoughts on Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. For those of you who have no idea what that is, that's a brand new ride that made its way to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and it's pretty much one of two rides that you're going to find within that portion of the park. Now, technically the ride has been open for almost 2 months at Disney World in Florida, but here in California at the Disneyland Resort, the ride has been open since January 17th, so literally not that long. So before we get started, I just want to kind of give you a quick recap if you haven't been here for the past couple of days. Just a nice way to fill you in really quick. First off, as of January 30th of this year, I am now officially 30 years old. So yep, finally in the big 3-0, but life goes on as always. The second quick thing is that I want to give a huge shout out to Steve over on Twitter, who made me these two awesome art pieces. We have pretty much how I normally dress up now when it comes to making the YouTube videos. And then of course there is a version of me pretty much based on how I dress when I attend Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Disney bounding, not cosplaying, just kind of correct there for those of you who might be thinking that I'm in costume, when in fact it is not. And for those of you wondering, are those going to be made into cards? I already have one of the two made into cards, so here is the first one on screen. There you guys go. And then here is the back side. So next time you see me, I'll be passing these out. And then when I get the new ones, I will also be passing those out too. And last but not least, a lot of you guys have been wondering when's the next lightsaber review. Well, you got to keep in mind that when you order custom lightsabers, they can take a while to get here. It can be a couple of weeks. It could be a couple of months. It's always random and it's up to them. It's something that I can't rush. But I did buy a Darth Maul custom saber second hand. And this one's got NeoPixel, doesn't have CFX, but just a little teaser here.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
And just really quick ignition. Oh yeah. So anyways, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and talk about Rise of the Resistance. Well, technically before we talk about, we have to start from the beginning. The beginning part is getting a boarding pass, because that's what you have to do in order to go on the ride currently. Now, could this change in the near future? Maybe, but honestly, the way things are going and how much of a pain it is just to get the dang boarding pass in the first place, I think it's going to be quite a long time before Disney ends up changing how they're going to run it. But hopefully they'll cut down in terms of, you know, what time that you have it to board the ride. But anyways, I'm kind of skipping around here. Boarding pass, what exactly is it? Well, a boarding pass is something that you need to get on the ride. There's two ways to go about it. There's kiosks located inside the park, or you can use your mobile phone, which is probably the better way. If you have no idea how to do that, I've actually done a video on how to utilize the app, how to get a boarding pass, how to link your tickets. So if you're planning on your next trip, or if you're new to Disneyland, I would highly suggest you check that out. If you're in the Florida location, I know it's a little bit different over there, but my app is and video tutorial is strictly based off the Disneyland Resort location in California. But anyways, in the morning time, it's intense. Everyone's got their phone ready to go. I started up the camera a minute before 8 o'clock, because at 8 o'clock, it's when you can go and get a boarding pass. And then finally, that last moment, once 8 o'clock hit, everyone's quiet, everyone's on their phones, and then the few seconds afterwards, you hear nothing but cheering, you know, like someone just won a game or a competition or something like that. Everyone's going crazy. It's a really cool moment, intense. I happened to get boarding group number, I think it was like 49 or 48, something like that. I was pretty much under the 50 mark, which is great, because I know it was a guaranteed that I was going to be on the ride. And it really depends on how many times it breaks down of when you're actually going to be guaranteed to go on it. So if it doesn't break down as often, then it has a chance of getting to the higher groups. But if it breaks down a lot, then the chances of you getting on, if you're in the higher numbers, it's less and less each time. Anyways, it was around 11:50, I believe, or 11:45, for I got a notification on the app saying, hey, your group number has been called to come board Rise of the Resistance, which I was super excited about, because I was over at the First Order camp, now making my way to the Resistance. Finally go on, making my way through the queue, which I wanted to say from start to finish, from getting in the queue and being done with the initial experience, was only about an hour, which was great, because honestly, everything that you go through, you have like 3 main phases, which we'll get into that as we get there. But the first thing they're going through is the line queue as they, you know, start putting people in groups, boarding them and so forth. The queue is very nice because when you go in, you feel like you're entering a tunnel. You feel like you're going into a resistance base. Along the way, you're going to see different set pieces. You're going to see outfits, uniforms, costumes. You're going to see the weapons locker, communications room. I really like the attention to detail that Disney has done with this attraction. And then eventually you're going to get to the part where you go into what I call stage 1. Stage 1 is when you go into a room, you see an animatronic of BB-8, which BB-8 looks great. Then you have a couple screens on the side, and you have pretty much like a hologram type tube, and then Rey will come on the transmission. If you ever looked at YouTube videos, it doesn't really do it justice, but in person, the holographic projection looks really, really nice, by the way. But you know, she's giving you your mission, your importance to the Resistance, and then after that, you move on to stage number 2, which is boarding the shuttle that's going to take you off planet. And what I like about, again, this whole experience is you literally feel like you are part of the Resistance. So you're getting your mission, you understand the importance that you are to the Resistance, you finally make your way to the shuttle, which nicely detailed, and on the side you see Poe's X-Wing, nicely detailed as well. So I would highly recommend you take any photos or video work that you need to do then. You don't have too much time. And now when you board the shuttle, you have kind of 2 different areas you can go. There's the front section, so you can see what's happening on the front side of the ship. And there's some really nice animatronic work. And then there's also the rear side, so you can see what's happening behind you. I took the opportunity, since it was my first time going, to get a good spot on the front, which I actually got to go on it twice, but we'll cover that after we discuss the main first portion of it. But anyways, had a good spot. Animatronic was great, and what I like about the whole shuttle scene is that you literally feel like you just left the planet, because what's nice about the shuttle is that thing moves around. So you really don't feel like you're on the planet anymore. It feels like you literally took off, you're in space. Next thing you know, the First Order comes out of nowhere, and like your ship is under attack, and your Poe and the other guides that are with you who were escorting you are also under attack, and like everything's shaking, moving around. You feel like you're part of the action. Next thing you know, you are stopped by a tractor beam, and you are now boarding a First Order cruiser. What's neat about it is that when you're watching it on the front or even in the back, you could see yourself entering the hangar bay of the First Order cruiser. Next thing you know, you're told to stand back from the doors. Doors open up, and immediately cast members dressed as the First Order officers come on deck. And what I like about the people here is that they are literally in character. They're not there like, okay, you know, I'm here at work. No, they are literally trying to sell it off like, you know, they're serious about this. And, you know, you don't want to mess with the First Order type situation. So for the cast members that are on this particular ride, who are the officers, I just want to give you guys a round of applause because you guys are doing an amazing work. But you get out, you see this huge hangar, and I really like how big it is, because you literally, it's like you're looking around, it's like, man, this must be how it feels like if you were to be legit in the movie, looking at all the I mean, typically in the movie you'd be looking at a giant green screen, but here you're not looking at a giant green screen, you're looking at a huge set piece. You got a bunch of troopers in the front all lined up in a few sections, some of which heads will turn. They're not actually people dressed up as First Order troopers, just kind of kill the magic a little bit. But, you know, it works well to set the scene. Got a bunch of officers lying around. You got a TIE fighter in the hangar bay, but you're moving towards the detention center, which is great. Move around, all the details of the hallway. Just, again, I can't get over the details about it. Again, from just the queue line throughout the entire experience, the attention to detail is absolutely amazing. They definitely nailed the theme and tone for what they wanted to go for. But essentially, you get to the detention level, and you're going to go either to the left-hand side or right-hand side, depending on where they escort you, and they're going to assign a color for you, and it's important that you remember, because that's where you're going to need to go once you get to the part where you board everything. But we got to the section where I was towards the right-hand side, and you know, he was asking a simple question, making sure everyone understood, and everyone was a bit quiet, and everyone's kind of calm and a little bit uneasy, which is nice. I like that unsettling feeling. And then he's like, I asked a question, does everyone understand? And I decided to take the opportunity, which I encourage you guys to do the same, to speak up, to see what happens, because I said no. And well, honestly, let me just let the video play for itself.
On the gray. How many? On the orange. 2 on the orange. How many? On the blue. How many? On the red. With them on the red. Remember the color that I have assigned to you. It will be important after your interrogation, and I will not remind you of it again. Remembering information is important. Being forthcoming with that information will only serve to make your life easier here upon the finalizer. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
I asked a question.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that
Yes, sir.
understood?
No.
Yes, sir.
No? Who said no? You did? What is so difficult to understand about basic colors?
Colorblind.
Then let me inform you that you are standing on the color orange. Remember it.
Orange into the south. Followed by gray.
Share.
And red. Of course. Everyone.
Good. Tell your interrogator.
Conspirators, both
Everything.
lines follow me, now.
All the way into the center.
So as you can see there, a little bit of fun. Like I said, I encourage you guys to do the same, have your own little bit of fun, see what kind of reactions you're going to get, because it's awesome to see how the cast members will react to that situation. And the person, I think it was Chris, I can't remember top of my head, but it's in the video. He did a good job of how to respond to that. Next thing you know, you board your detention cell, and you know it feels a bit cramped in there because everyone's kind of huddled in together. You look on top, you see a first order trooper, and then you see Hux come on screen, and then eventually Kylo Ren, and the next thing you know, they leave. It's quiet. Everyone's kind of confused, lost, like where'd he go? There's nowhere to go. You literally are in a cell, and then you see plasma cutters up on this wall. Well, actually, first you hear voices, then the plasma cutters come up, and you just see an outline of where they're cutting, which is really nicely done for the effect. Next thing you know, boom, you got the resistance on the other side telling you to hurry up, let's go, we're breaking you out of here. And then you get a mission from Finn on screen letting you know what's going to happen, this is the objective, this is where you're going to go, and the droids that are there escorting you are there to help you out. You make your way over, you avoided the probe droid, and then eventually you're discovered by some troopers who are shooting at you. And what I like about they done here is the effects, because like as they're shooting at you, you look over to the side and you can see the damage of their blasters done against the wall. Then eventually you get to one of the main rooms where you have the giant walkers, and you look up, those things are huge. And again, it's greatly done of the aspect, and just the initial size aspect is, when you watch YouTube videos, it doesn't do it justice, but when you're there in person looking up, it's like, holy crap, that's what they're dealing with. God forbid if you're up against one of those things. Go up an elevator, make your way over to one of the command centers. You see another animatronic of Kylo Ren and Hux. Hux looks a little bit off for the animatronic, but the Kylo Ren one looks menacing. He looks like literally the walk-around character, perfectly done well. I couldn't tell the difference if it was an animatronic or an actual person, but it's an animatronic regardless because there's no humans on the actual ride itself. Eventually make your way over. Kylo Ren's chasing you down. They did a really cool effect that kind of uses the same technique that they use in the Haunted Mansion. And then you're in another elevator and you see Kylo Ren's saber going through the ceiling, cutting its way open, which that was done nicely. Eventually you make your way over to the giant cannons. You look over to your right hand side, you just see nothing but an epic space battle going on, and you have giant guns blocking your way that eventually when they fire, they move back, allowing you to go. And it's just like, again, you have to experience it. Just me talking about it isn't going to do it justice. You get to another point where you see Kylo Ren once more. He's using the Force to pull you in. He's done with this now. He's going to get you one way or another. A blast from one of the cannons pops open the back, and you have the cabin depressurizing, and then eventually that seals up, allowing you to make your way to escape pod. Once you get to the escape pod, you lock into place, and for those of you who don't know, is that there is actually a drop on this ride. It's not a crazy epic drop. It's not like you're gonna fall like 5 or 6 stories. It's more like maybe a half a story from a first floor or something like that. It's just a quick sudden drop. Just want to kind of let you know ahead of time. But you drop down a little bit, everything's moving. Again, it's going with what you're seeing on screen, the impact. You know, you literally feel like you're now on an escape pod. You crash land, you make your way out, and then, you know, you basically are being congratulated or promoted by Finn. And then, of course, you make your way upon the exit. But just the whole thing, again, from start to finish, was amazingly well. And I'm not saying it because I love Star Wars. Just like, you know, if I didn't like it, I didn't like it. But I absolutely enjoyed it to where it's easily going to get within my top ride sections of Disneyland. You know, up there with things like Space Mountain, Indiana Jones, the Incredicoaster, Guardians of the Galaxy, what used to be Tower of Terror. I think they still have Tower of Terror in Hollywood, right? The Florida location. But it's crazy fun. Again, you get 3 main sections. You literally feel like you are part of the Resistance on this epic journey. And then when it's over, it's just mind-boggling how crazy done it is. I mean, it sucks when things don't work and there's delays where people who are in higher boarding groups can't go on. But once you finally get to go on, it's so worth it. Now, another thing I want to mention is a couple of things. For one is that I almost had the opportunity to ride it a second time. What had happened was that a fan came up. He happened to have an extra pass because someone initially had it for it was a ride switch or something like that, you know, where someone had to like watch the baby or something like that, and they're, you know, doing a rider switch. That pass never got used, and it wasn't going to be used by anyone, so he came up to me. I gave it to a friend of mine who didn't have the opportunity to go on the ride, and then, you know, thankfully that worked with the whole pass situation, because he just kind of, you know, copy or photocopy the pass and gave it to him. It was a legit pass. It wasn't like a fake pass or anything. And what had happened is my friend was waiting in about an hour or so. He still hasn't been on it for whatever reason. He didn't have to wait in the long queue line either. It was more towards up the front. And then what happened was the ride broke down. And so what had happened was they gave him fast passes, but they gave him 5 fast passes, so which means that I got to go on it a second time, or I would have been the second time. And it's just constantly going down. Like literally the entire afternoon of that Sunday, the ride was down. But eventually, I think it was like around 7 p.m., 7:30, the ride came back up. Used the fast pass to go in. We avoided the queue. We literally started at what I call stage 1, and then we made our way to stage 2, and we're finally on to stage 3, and we're at the the detention center. We haven't got inside of it, but we're waiting in line for, you know, to tell you what numbers to stand on or what color to stand on. But then the ride breaks down again. Now, just something I wanted to mention. It's gonna break the Disney magic a little bit. Is that when it broke down, they were escorting people out of the ride. So we eventually had to go down the hall, and then make our way to the right through another room. And literally, this is how it goes from the transition. You are literally there on a cruiser, and now you're in a hallway from a typical building here on Earth. So it's like, there goes the immersion of the experience that, hey, you were just transported to space. Oh, never mind, now you're back in an office building, you know, Disneyland or just any type of typical building. But made our way to the exit. They offer fast passes again, but, you know, the ride shuts off like I think 9 p.m. But yeah, like I said, when everything's working correctly, it's amazing. But again, they are going to have technical difficulties because they are using advanced pieces of technology on this thing. I think it's worth it overall if you're able to go. And I think if one thing they should change your return time, because they give you 2 hours to return to ride it. They should reduce it down to 1 hour instead. The reason why I say that is because there's no reason why you need 2 hours of a return time. 1 hour is plenty of time. I'm sure if there's a situation where you're on a ride and I get stuck, I'm sure Disney will help you out with that. But it's just, if they do an hour, I feel like that could be helped towards getting other groups in quicker, rather than, you know, hey, I got group 60 and now you can't go because the ride broke down and whatever. But there's just my opinion. If I were to give this a rating, I would easily give this a 10 out of 10 experience. Just trying to get onto the dang thing is already frustrating, but once you get on, the whole thing, worth it. But until then, have you guys been on it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.